is his debut fight, 5'11", 194 pounds, Dmitry Lipinskiy.
How you doing? He's ready. Mouthpiece in? Cups in? Yeah. So I'm gonna have fun.
Making his debut, 6'1", 188.9 pounds from Naples, Florida, Lee.
Welcome to the Listen to This Bull live show. My name is Matt Mulholland. That's Remington Huggins. This is the show we talk about bullshit in the insurance world. Today we have a very different kind of a show set up, though, and we're a week late. We set this thing up to go last week, and then RIRE got in the way. But I got Dmitry Lipinskiy waiting in the wings. He's got a hell of a story. You guys have heard a little bit about this. Dude decided he's going to fight. And then he kicks some ass. I can't wait to hear what the buildup was for that. I know that he's got it's almost like there's some life lessons in this. I'm looking forward to this show. I've been looking forward to this show for a while now. If you guys have never seen the Listen to This Bull show, this is the show where you can ask questions live. The reason we go live is so you can post comments. And if you have a good enough question, we'll pull it on and we'll ask our guest that question. So all we have to do to get started is push this button. Dmitry,
What's happening? Love your little intro there.
It wasn't bad. It's different every time. I need an actual intro. I also need an outro. Do you have a sign off on your podcast?
No, just subscribe, whatever comes natural.
I'm not very good at the whole subscribe thing. I really appreciate you being on here. I thought at some point you would probably get tired of talking about that fight.
I am tired of talking. People begging me to stop talking about it. And I moved on to my channel, but if someone invites me, especially, I feel like I owe you a favor to come to yours. And, if that's what you want to talk, that's what we're going to talk about.
Hey,
I kind of want to ask you.
All right. Last two Raw talking about it. So here we go.
Yeah. It has been a little bit, though. I can see how you might get a little bit annoyed by it at this point if it's your entire life for the last.
I mean, to be frank with you, I have a bragging rights to talk about it for the next 2 decades. So it is what it is.
There's that.
Huh?
It's a good thing you won, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think you had losing in you. I don't think it was possible. Just watching your face in that thing, you were intense, dude.
I wouldn't quit. I mean, I did not come there to lose.
Even right after you won, your eyes were like so like, oh, like you were ready to just rip somebody apart. It was something. It was something to watch.
Hold on. I was not about to rip someone apart. I was focused on the winning. I was psyched, but I was not angry. I was not mad. I was not, I was focused. Like I was determined. Let me put it this way.
Okay.
And I'm glad I won.
Why did you fight?
I think it was, well, we didn't have to fight. When you call someone out, obviously the whole thing, like I feel like Lee overreacted a little bit. He didn't have to. It was important for him to fight. It wasn't important for me in the beginning. I accepted the fight because it went too far. So actually, it started with Lindsay Douglas, your public adjuster friend. When I interviewed her, she came to me accusing him of being Ponzi scheme, whatever. And just for letting her on my podcast and I pushed back every accusation she had against Lee. I pushed back. I did not eat it. I did not run with it. And if you episode's still out there, you can rewatch it. I got tons of compliments about it. She was calling. So she just lost a job at RCA. She came to she pretty much called me and says, "Hey, I've seen your interview with Lee Haight, and he is a pro. He's a Ponzi scheme. I've seen the books, pretty big accusations." And,
Right.
I said, you know what? Let's do a podcast. So we did a podcast. She calls him Ponzi scheme. I pushed back. I said, why do you say that? And she's like, well, he has high turnover. I said, but that does not make him Ponzi scheme. Well, within a week or two, I fly to him and let him respond. And that's where it's originally started, beefing up. At that time, he's like, why don't you fight me? Why did you let her on your podcast? And he was so mad. It's actually the first time he jumped on me. We went to the restaurant. He got drunk. He wanted to fist fight me outside of
he jumped out at you then too?
he was in my face. He was
No
like
kidding.
fighting me, and I'm like, no. He apologized for that behavior later, but that's how it's all started. But then later, I interviewed a few more people. Essentially, he keep losing his key people, like VP of sales and more sales guys, and people want to talk. It's a podcast. If someone comes to you and say, I want to share the story, I feel like that's what it owe to our audience. If that's what I do, I'll talk to anyone, but I always gave him opportunity to answer. And at the end, it started getting very personal. When someone calls, like, here's how I accepted the fight. So he wanted to fight me for 3 years. He wanted to fight Delmedica, Best Damn Roofer, myself. He wanted to do it for promo, exhibition fight, whatever. I'm like, that's dumb. Let's not do it. I'm not a fighter. I'm truly not a fighter. And he always wanted to do it for many, many years. He's been training for years. Delmedic almost accepted the fight, but he didn't. And then finally, he started really threatening me. He's calling me. He's like, I'm going to fight you. Whether you like it or not, I'll come to your office. So I have the full phone call. So that if you heard the sound bite of him saying, I'll pay you $60,000 if you stand 3 rounds, the full call, it's 25 minutes. It's a Saturday. He calls me and pretty much yells at me for 25 minutes. For 25 minutes, he's like, I'll come to your backyard. I'll beat you up in front of your kids. I'll come to your office. I'll spit in your face. I'll give you $60,000 if you stand 3 rounds against me. And I said, you know what? I'm not afraid of you. Like before that, I would not accept it because it was just dumb thing to do. Now, that's a real threat. And here's the thing. After the fight, actually, after Las Vegas, he texted me. He's like, I'm not paying you $60,000. You illegally recorded me. I'm like, dude, if I leak the whole 25 minutes on the internet, your reputation is ruined. Like, I don't have a beef with you. You don't have to pay me. It's your name on the line. But here's what I told him. I said, first of all, you calling me. Minnesota is one-party consent, right? There's nothing illegal about that. And your dumb lawyer did not learn that lesson when I recorded him. Now, don't talk to me like that. I know what's legal, what's illegal. But secondly, you calling me, you threaten me to come beat me up in front of my kids, and you think I will not record a freaking phone call when someone yells at me and does threats like that? You need freaking psychologist, mentor, and you need clinical help at this point. Anyway, and the legal advice. So he threats me, all of that, and I said, you know what? I'll take the fight. Within a couple of days, I signed a contract, but it's not between me and him. It's a NFC. I said, we're gonna fight in the middle. I'm not gonna come to you. He's like, come to Tampa. I'm like, I'm not coming no to Tampa. You're in Tampa. I'm in Minneapolis. Let's do it in Atlanta between us. So for Raymond Wendell, he helped us hook us up with the NFC. They send us the whole package to him, package to me, contract. I signed with done deal. Within a couple of days, it was signed. And then after that, he jumped at me at Orlando Expo. If you've seen that clip,
we saw that.
Yeah, that was all after. But pretty much that's the full story. All it is started because he reacted. Listen, you gotta get criticized. I gotta get criticized. People, your ex-employee, like my ex-employees, can say stuff about me. People will call you crook, liar, whatever. If we all gonna react like that, I mean, come on. Like, there's a better way. And we all have done it. Delmedico has people calling him out. I have people calling me out. The calling people out is not gonna go away. How you react to it will. And he decides to attack. I mean, I'm not the first one. I'm probably like 10th guy who have done it to. But I guess I'm too big. Like, the damage for him, if I speak about him, the damage is real. Because, I guess I'm influencer. People listen to me. And, he claims I cost him money. What's not? I mean, it is what it is. If the guy calls me, I always answer my phone call. I'm like this. I always talk respectfully. What you see on the screen, that's what you see in the private conversation. So,
which we can respect, can't we, Matt?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd pick up that phone call, though. I mean, if it was me and he was calling and that's the kind of shit that he was giving me, I highly doubt I would be answering those calls.
But that's how I'm Russian, okay? You cannot scare. Like, I grew up on the streets of Russia in Siberia. Like, if you know Khabib Nurmagomedov, so he's from Dagestan. That's my background. 50-50 population in my city is Dagestans and, Russians. So, like, on the street, we fight. There's going to be Dagestan people. There's going to be Russian people. All my friends are wrestlers, fighters. Like, that's okay. Like, you can do that growing up. When you have that experience, nothing else is scary. Like, one of the fighters said that ring for him is the safest place. For me, a ring because it's controlled. You have a referee, you have medical doctors. Like, I'm not going to fight someone outside of a restaurant. It's a risk for my business. It's just dumb stuff. But for the sporting challenge, for the sake of it, especially right now, it's getting more popular. We do get publicity. I think it's very good for personal branding. At first, I was a little bit skeptical. At first, I was getting a lot of heat, a lot of hate, a lot of like, what is it, salt and this and that. Like, it was a lot of negative talk. But
it's not good for the industry, Dmitry. What are you doing?
Exactly. But I tell you this, narrative has changed. So in the beginning, it was, this will never happen. Someone gonna get hurt. This is only for publicity. This is stupid. This is attention grab. There was all like naysayers, right? Towards the end, like week prior, I would say I start seeing completely different picture. Haters turn into lovers. They're like, "Ooh, we respect that. They're actually doing it. This is actually not, make up."
They didn't believe it. They didn't believe you were actually going to fight. It was just publicity.
Yeah.
Not that the fight was publicity, but just leading up to it, and then you were going to back out or something. That's what they thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
They don't know you very well.
Probably not. And I did not publish, I did not publish my training for the foremost. Here's the difference in culture. And if you're talking about lessons about this fight, lesson number one, you don't round your mouth like you won the fight before you actually fight the person. You never do it. I never understood it about American culture. How many YouTube videos have you seen where the loudest fighter loses? Like, why don't you guys learn the lesson? In my culture, majority of Russian fighters, like Fedor Emelianenko, GGG, Triple G, like most of the, like Klitschko's, none of them. Like, you can come and pour water on them and scream at them. None of them. They're so composed. It's all about sport. They're not going to run their mouth. Like, okay, disrespect me. We're going to settle in the court. You can't get in our minds. And in our culture, the talk is nothing. It's cheap. Like, what are you trying to prove? You're going to embarrass yourself that much more the more you talk. So number one lesson here is, I mean, you've seen it. We did our homework. I did the whole 2.5 minutes. If you watch the fight without trash talk, it's one fight. But when you watch the fight with the 2.5 minutes of one person talking how he's going to destroy a second person, and then you watch the fight and that person loses, now that's embarrassing.
I didn't see that part. I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at that. That's actually really funny. You didn't say a word.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Dude,
I mean, there's
great.
nothing to say. You talk in the ring. Like, that's it. What's the point of
let
talking?
my fist talk? Get ready.
Hey, I can't say this. Usually, let's just look at football because the Super Bowl was a couple days ago. It's unusual for a player or team to be like, oh, I'm going to dominate you on the field, before the actual football game. I think American fighters like to yap before the fight because it builds up the intensity for viewers to come and watch it because of the yapping. And I feel like it's part of it's a show. I feel like they all know it's BS because talk, like you said, doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying, I think now I'm not speaking for all the fighters because there's some that just can't help themselves, right? But I think there's some that like to build it up to try and get viewers. But obviously that's not something in your culture that they do.
I mean, if you look at Conor McGregor and Khabib, like, look at that build up and look what happens later. I mean, Conor was all like, cool and this, but Khabib is Khabib. Like, comes, do the job, retires, champion, done.
What maybe Remington is right. Do you think that Lee was really just building up drama on purpose for the spectacle?
That's his character. He can't.
Or is he trying to get in your head?
Well, if he did, then he doesn't know anything about my head. Because the thing about it is, like, you have to understand your opponent. You have to understand how to get in someone else's head and what to do. Like, I was trying to get in his head, and I definitely did that. And he admitted it even after. I mean, I flew his cousin to the fight. That's how you get in someone's head, to have his family at your table. Like,
what? You flew his cousin out there? Oh, my God.
You play games, you play games.
That's a strong move. Man.
Gotta do what
Did you get his mom out there too? Did you try to get his mom out there? That would have been really good.
No, but that's how it is.
You put his mom in your section.
His aunt or whatever. No, I'm quite a few family members, like cousins and stuff. I mean, they have a messed up family too. And I don't want to like get on that level per se, but once his family have seen the beef and stuff, they're like, we became friends. And I'm like, hey, let me fly you in. Do you want to sit at my table? That would be honor. That would be a statement for you and me. And they're like, sure thing.
Was it Delta or Spirit?
I wish I had been there.
It was Delta.
I wish I had been there. Watching the videos live as people are trying to focus on it, and there's these columns in the way, and they're like, oh, we can't see what the hell's going on. And that was something else.
The best piece is actually coming in about the week. We have little documentary made, like, because Patrick Carr was working the show. He interviewed everybody who was there, like with the predictions and stuff. It was Heath Hicks and all, Josie, like all the big names. There was so many people there. So he interviewed coaches, he interviewed freaking Lee Haight, and everyone. And that piece actually is so like inspiring to watch, because you can see the build up, you can see the atmosphere there, you can see what people talk, like interviewing people there and atmosphere. It was insane. Like, it was like, it's the best item on my bucket list so far. Like, it was so rewarding to do it. Like, you cannot explain the feeling. I have 5 kids. I come home and my kids watch it like 4 times. They found it on their own on YouTube, and they keep watching, and it's like, this is my favorite moment. And I was like, you were not supposed to watch this. And it was just so good. Would you recommend that other people do this? 100%. 100%. If you're in physical shape, but in control, like if you're a man and you've never been in physical fight, like, absolutely. Like, you will learn so much about yourself. You will learn so much about, I mean, it's challenging. I mean, there's nothing else like that, but it's real life. You never know when someone will come and confront you. And as a man, like, we're supposed to be protectors. We're supposed to, that joke they say. I was watching an interview the other day, and the lady says, well, um, are you gonna so the line goes like this: are you do you cook? And man says, I don't cook. You cook. And she's like, why you assume I supposed to cook? And he said, if me and you go on the street and someone confronts us, there's, man, do you suppose, am I supposed to fight him, or you supposed to fight him? That's what you're supposed to do. Like, that's your role, like, in life. Like, protect the woman, protect the kids. And how can you protect someone if you never train to protect someone, like in controlled environment? So I think in that regard, it's very good experience. It's awesome to face your fear, and if you have opportunity, why not? I'm actually part of this community, boxing community, fighters. There's like 20 of them, and we have amateur group where guys like 50, 60, and they're getting fights, and so much fun. Like, seeing like 50-year-old getting his first fight and talk about experience, and you spar with him. It's the coolest thing ever. And as a matter of fact, I would argue this, that people in boxing, like studio, whatever, at a boxing gym, they're not looking for conflicts. They're the nicest people. Like, honestly, they're freaking nice. I sparred with a guy. He built like a rock, 175 pounds, hit 10 times harder than Lee does, but the nicest guy ever. Like, you cannot imagine that guy being aggressive in real life. They're all like taking care of their youth, and they just do it for the sport. Like, real boxers will never be aggressive like in real life, because it comes with accountability. You're responsible for what you have. Just because you can hurt people doesn't mean that you will. It's punks who takes 3 lessons, go fight everyone, and aggressive. But real fighters, people who know, like, I know I'm dangerous, I know I can freaking hurt people, but I'll never use it. But it's nice to have this power in you, and everybody should try it at least one time, in my opinion.
Remington, you want to fight me? I don't like your face.
Yeah, you got
it's
faith.
Too beautiful.
Let's roll.
Jesus. So after the fight was over, you won. You've had time to reflect on this. It's been almost a month at this point. 3 weeks to a month. What was the big life lesson?
Honestly, everything changed for me. This fight turned something. So for a couple of years, my content, I've been calling people out, and I've been. So this fight did kind of 2 things for me personally, for my personal brand, I would say. Number one is, many people have seen that I'm not just talking, I can stand up for what I believe in. Like, that's like, I see a lot of comments. People say, oh, he's not just a keyboard warrior. He will stand up for what he believes in. And he's not just like talking about someone, but he can, fight or wherever it means. Right. So, and I guess it means a lot in today's world, because we have a lot, like, I have a lot of guys who are so brave and so aggressive, but then they'll block you, and you meet them in real life, they roll their eyes, right? So in this case, people have seen that I can deliver. That's number one. Number two, in the 6 years of doing content, I called out, I want to say 6, 7 people. And usually it's the worst of the worst. Is Joshua Waxman, the guy who screwed a lot of people, went out. It's like truly scammers, right? Bad marketers, people who steal from crews. Most of them, I would say 90% of them, will block me, move on, because they have nothing to say, in return. They, if I do investigation, I will always reach out. I will always talk to you. I will always try to figure out what is going on here and give you opportunity to answer. Usually people who are really scammy, they're not going to give you anything. They're just going to run. So I have like 5, 6 of them. So it's not that much, but people remember the negative. I mean, we do 150 videos per year. Like, I highlighted.
I thought it was more than that.
Yeah, so I highlighted like 150 companies on my channel that we travel to, all the big names, right? But people don't remember that. They remember 5 conflicts. And the conflicts were very time consuming. So it could be like one person, like let's say Lee Haight, but amount of energy it takes out of you as a content creator, it just sucks you in. So in that sense, like my wife and myself would talk about it a few times, and a few of my mentors, few of my friends, because they see what it does to you. It takes your energy. Like I want to create positive content. We all do, but sometimes you just feel like a calling. Like for example, Lindsay Douglas calls you and say, "Hey, this guy runs a running Ponzi scheme. I have a QuickBooks and I want to expose him." How do you say no to that? Like you also feel like you have responsibility to do that because people are gonna get hurt, or like for me, when people, I have 5 ex-employees of CMR come to me, like top people, and they're like, Dmitry, we need to help these homeowners. The house is not getting built. We're running pretty much Ponzi scheme too, like in a sense. So how you not run story like that when you know that company is going under, and if nobody will shed the light on it, more people gonna get hurt, right? So you have to make ethical, moral decision in that case. But with all of that, it does take toll on you. So you have to let go, truly let go of the situation. And over the years, it's not that I wanted to do it, but it was hard not to, because for me, when you're not afraid, when you bold enough and you have balls to call out anyone, like it's not going to get to you, and if it does get to you, it's not going to affect you. I have that character that I was the person who could do it. But after Lee Haight fight, uh I don't know, something changed, something clicked, and I felt like I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to anymore. Like I want to let it go. So I actually talked to several people. Like one of them was Josie, who bought Win the Storm, and I asked him. I told him, give me advice at the end of the podcast. Give me business advice, and he said, he told me like, hey, you called out Home Advisor years ago, and maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should take it easy on calling out these brands and look for good. And so I started thinking a lot, like, what do I gain, and all of that. So, and I actually decided. So I made a decision to not, and it's not a promise per se, but I made a decision. I'm gonna stop calling people out unless I absolutely have to. Like like I don't know, if someone personally comes after me and something like really like at this point something really bad has to happen for me to do it again. For me, I'm like, you know what? I don't want another Lee Haight in my life. I don't want another fight. Like, I want to build a business. That's one of the reasons I decided not to do conference, because it was taking too much of my time to do something like, if you're building $1 billion company, $1 million event is a distraction. If you want to highlight 100 companies, calling out one person is a distraction. So I just look at all my energy and I'm like, this Lee Haight thing took too much of my time. How much of good content could I do? And I was true to myself. I don't have any regrets of doing what I've done, but I made a decision after the fight that, what, this is the last one. I proved the point. I earned the certain reputation that I can do this. I set the precedent, and I can move to do just good. But if anyone ever cross my line, I can always come back to it, but I don't want to. So I have a peace, after that fight. I'm like, we are done. This stays right here. No more fighting. And the moment I made the decision, within a day or two, Delmedico reached out. It's like, hey, let's do a podcast. And I'm like, and I made a public announcement on the channel. I said, if I ever cross the line, if we are not on good terms, reach out. Let's rebuild the bridge. Maybe it's hard, but I want to make up with every single person I ever offended, or maybe offended me. And I opened my doors. Like, this is 2024 is going to be a rebuilding year for me. I deleted some Home Advisor videos, like pretty much 15 videos total that I think it's either outdated or I don't have to have it. I'm still cleaning up. Not everything is done, but I'm working on it. And it felt good. It felt very good.
Do you think that it was the fact that you're not going to be fighting anymore that really took the weight off your shoulders? Or was the fact that you finally made a decision where you've been indecisive this whole time on whether this is the right thing to do or not?
I think it was, we all, like, I didn't have a mentor for the longest time. And many people have been telling me, like, why do you do this, like questioning my intentions, or um, when people criticize you, you have to ask yourself, do you do anything that you deserve this criticism? Like, even if you think like you have the right intentions, and like, you have to question yourself, is it a constructive criticism? Or because my audience, believe it or not, they like my majority of my people, they like when I call out people. Like, because I
Yeah.
ask this question many times. Like roofers, if you ask them, they like when we call out crooks. There is a big group of people who have no problems with it. So I'm not a people pleaser for that minute, but I have to be okay with myself to do what I do. And I was searching for new me, if you will, because I also know that I want to be known not just as a YouTuber. I want, like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman. And the real question I was asking myself as a business owner, I have 6 businesses now. How can I open more opportunities, more businesses? And if I call people out, how many doors I keep closing? Because I've seen few shut doors in front of my face, like I couldn't open unless, I hire someone, my partner will go open it for me. But for me, it was a closed door
Mhm.
because for many reasons. Like when you're confronting another person, there's another man's ego on the other side. And some people, even if it's good for them, they're not gonna do it just because their ego say, I'm not gonna do business with you. I'm the same way. If you offended me, I don't care if I'm losing money. If I don't like you, I'm not gonna do business with you. So I'm like, as far as business perspective, 2024, I'm building $1 billion company. Directory.com is my biggest business, right? And I have to be focused on it. So the decision was directly correlated to directory.com. How do I build directory.com into national brand in 10 years? Can I keep doing what I've been doing, you know, and still reach there? Can I keep doing conferences? Can I keep calling people out, or do I have to change something? So I decided that I have to be more focused and being positive for the sake of directory.com, to be invited to more podcasts, to have more friends. So collaboration over confrontation was the solution. Actually, it came from Arnold Schwarzenegger book. I was reading it and I
He's got a
heard it
book.
in the book. Yeah,
Do you read
collaboration.
it in his accent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the moment. I'm like, I like it. So it was many signs, one here, one there, and finally I'm like, and also the fight was kind of, it's just a big thing, it's kind of like, okay, here is the right moment to do it, to announce it. So it's not just like a thing, it's like a big thing, it's a big decision.
Hmm. Dude, it's freaking crazy.
What is?
The fact that you did all this is just, I'm impressed.
Thank
I
you.
thought it was really cool that you actually took it on. He's the schoolhouse bully. You decided you're going to just deal with this. I've noticed the positivity change, and honestly, it was before the fight that I started noticing it anyway.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure other people have as well. But man, it's, I don't know. You've definitely taken a turn. If you liked PAs better, we'd probably be closer friends. But
If you
one of
start,
those things
no.
That's,
resolves itself.
that's another can of worms there.
Yeah, that's another can of worms. But I appreciate you being on, man. I know you're getting tired of talking about these fights, but the next time we have you on, I think that we'll start talking about the difference between directory and potentially why that is such an important role. There's so many people that have decided that they should have some kind of a directory, which is a perfect name for it, a directory of different things, of many different things in this single industry. But you've been able to accomplish that. And I know that a lot of people have attempted that. I'd love to know what the differences are. But I don't want to talk about that on the same day that we talk about all the fights.
Sure.
I also don't want to drag it
Can I
on.
tell you one thing?
Yeah.
So there's one group. There's I'm not gonna say a name, but it was one PA. Man, he pissed me off. And the funny enough, like after the fight, he wanted to collaborate. He is like, let's do something. But do you read Bible?
No, that's not
No.
me.
All right. So Not gonna do analogy, but anyway.
I mean, you can still do it. I'm sure my audience does.
So this guy came to me. Well, he spent effort. Like, if you don't like the fight or the whole fighting idea, I'm okay with it. Like, you don't have to like fighting, whatever. But you do notice people who spend enormous amount of energy to be in every post about the fight, to tell everyone like that fight is stupid, that idea is stupid, and you guys should not do it, and this is bad for the industry, and calling me clown or him clown or whatever, right? So it was one PA who did all of that on every post. And I'm talking about very mean comments, or those are both clowns, or they just making our industry look stupid and this and this. Like, and I see it. Like, I don't reply, I don't, but you see the comments, because when someone publishes like, hey, what's your predictions? And there's one PA like boom, boom. So I'm like, okay, this guy definitely doesn't like, call me like clown 5 times, calling me stupid, calling me a week after the fight. He reaches out to me. Let's do something together. Let's do. And I'm like, you freaking hypocrite. Like, I don't do anything with you. Like, I've seen your comments. I've seen what you said about me. And like, listen, it's okay that you don't agree, but you can at least do it respectfully. Like, not all my friends agreed with it. But just because I don't agree with what you do, like, it's your life and you do something. It's not like, I mean, what did I do to you? Like, how does it? Oh, you're an influencer in this. So what? Just because I make YouTube videos, I cannot do boxing? Just because I have
That's a solid point, because people are talking about influencers a lot more negatively than they used to too. So anything that an influencer does must just be because they want to have more influence or something to that effect. So, but it's bullshit. You have to be able to live. You have to be able to do your job. And someone at your level as an influencer, they should take a look behind the curtain and see just how much work you put in on a day-to-day basis to be able to do that. So I don't know. How did you find the time to train is really a good question.
You have mornings. I train twice a day for like 4 months, like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, afternoon, after hours. I came home right now. I did a assault bike for like 40 minutes, 10 rounds of 2 minutes, 400 calories. If you want to do something, you will find the time. We all have time for scrolling for Netflix. And by the way, I do that. Like, I put a podcast on assault bike and I do that. I listen. I never like, usually my training is, if it's not with a boxing coach and stuff, I listen. Even in my CrossFit gym, I listen to the podcast or audiobook. Like, you can combine two things. There's nothing wrong with it. Let me ask you this. I have a question for you. Do you have people who tell you or criticize you for the content that you don't do, or you don't talk about that? Why don't you make a video about that?
Yes, I do. And honestly, that happens a lot more than you would think that it should. And especially if you put someone on the podcast and you're just having them on as a guest or something, and then you get some comments from someone where they're like, why did you have him on your show? Don't you know the backstory with that? No, I didn't do a fucking background check on this guy. I'm sorry. My bad.
You know what gets me the most, like, recently? So I have a lot of contractors. They DM me very mean texts and stuff, and they're like, why don't you do story on like State Farm or whatever? Why don't you expose this? Why don't you do more of this? And they'll call you like a sellout. They'll call you like, oh, you just do this. Like, I'm like, listen, I have, YouTube is free, Facebook is free. You have a smartphone. If you have something, if you have a document, if you have information and it's public, what's stopping you to do it? I don't have your audience. You don't have to. I'll share your stuff. I'll react to your stuff.
They're afraid, they think that it's going to hurt their business or something, but they never have any real solid evidence either. I can't tell you how many people send me messages constantly. I've got evidence. I've got proof. No, you have hearsay every time. And it's frustrating. I want the proof.
And it's not, and we do stories, but it's also impossible to, like we cover insurance fraud, we cover contractors fraud, like all of it, but it's impossible to be police in this industry. It's a freaking full-time job. You would do 5 stories a day, and then you still would not cover, and people would have you accused like, hey, why don't you talk about your buddy here who has like, okay, someone is suing him. Did he win? You want me to cover every story of someone suing someone before they actually got a verdict? That's why usually what we do is like, there's a verdict, there's actually hearing, and someone lost and someone won. You at least have something. This industry is insane, and people are insane, and they feel like all they owe you, and you're the sellout, and they're the right one. Crazy.
I can say this to give Matt and listen to this bull credit is for an attorney being a co-host and an educator being the host. We do, I guess, exploit. I don't know if that's the best word, but we do talk about issues and dig deep and get into the weeds on things. So, and when we don't, it's calculated, like you're talking about. It's things that it needs time to, marinate and for there to, let's just say, like, I'll use your analogy, like for there to be a verdict. What are we going to talk about? Somebody suing somebody. I feel like, to me, that's like a TMZ, like just gossip show until there's an actual conclusion to it. Like, that's what needs to happen for us to have that conversation. Other than that, it's, ooh, what do you think is going to happen? Oh, I don't know. Did you read the complaint, the lawsuit? It's just, to me, it's not real substance, in my opinion. So it's all calculated, in my opinion.
Every time someone tells me they want me to do one of those shows, I'm like, nah, you know what? I think Dmitry would probably do that one. You should reach out to him. Now what am I going to do? Fuck.
No, we still cover the news. Like, I found actually perfect format. So every Sunday we cover industry news. And even that, we get so I hired Sydney. She used to work for Facebook. She's a professional script writer. So she writes, we literally search the internet for press releases, for search. So every Sunday, 7-8 news, we cover it like, hey, here's what happened there. Here's the fine. Here's the lawsuit. Here's this. Just in the news. Like, there's no takes. We just cover the news. And people love the format. But so we've been doing it for like 3 months. So tons of news. And even after that, it's like, oh, why didn't you cover that? Why you don't cover positivity? Where's the positive news? And I challenge everyone many times. Like, listen, everybody wants positive news. Send it to me. I'll freaking cover it. Give me 5 positive news to talk every Sunday. They don't exist. Like, I beg for it. And every video is like, hey, guys, send us news. They're like, oh, you focus on negative news because that's the only news that exists in freaking universe. You do something.
It seems to be true. Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, with a show like Listen to This Bull, it means that we'll never run out of topics to talk about, which is great. We just got to get outside of insurance, maybe. But, there is no good news. What about Badger? You guys, you have Badger on your thing now, doing a Badger's Corner deal. How's that going?
He comes. He's not on every. Well, first of all, I don't talk to him, so we follow him. So here's what's happening with Badger's Corner. So Sydney searches for Badger's really good at content. So he reacts to everything, right? So he always gets in freaking trouble, and he always calls someone out, and there's always like hot debate. So what
he's a troll sometimes. It's really kind of fun to watch. Yeah,
exactly. So what we do, Sydney, and I don't know, like when I read it, like it's the first time it's in the teleprompter. I was like Badger's Corner. So I'm like, all right. So Badger reacted to something or got in the podcast or fight something. So because he publishes something every single week, I gave him a Badger's Corner because he's like on other side. So it's not one side. That's the only reason we created a Badger's Corner. I've never talked to him about it. He was, of course, honored about it. But the reason is because he's calling us out, and I wanted to be like both sided. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to just bet the insurance companies. I want to talk to at least one guy who always protects them or gets them. Like, anyway, it was just good balance for the news. That's all.
Badger's not a bad dude. I've had a few beers with the guy at this point. I've discussed things. I've had debates with the guy. I agree with him on 80% of things. He isn't wrong most of the time. There's like 10% of stuff that we disagree on that really isn't that big of a deal. And then there's 10% of stuff that we disagree on that is a big deal. But we can still be cordial about it. I like the guy. I like people that are reasonable and they think things through. He will give a reasonable response as long as you give good thought to your response to him as well. I think he was a decent choice for you to have on there. I like the guy. And by me saying that, I am alienating half of my audience right now. They hate me for saying that right this second. So
No,
whatever. I
me,
like
me too. The same thing, but you have to recognize reasonable, arguments and stuff. Are you going to be at Win the Storm?
I have been invited to go speak. They haven't given me much information about that. But I think that we're at least going to attend. I have not gotten myself a booth or anything yet, but I'll probably be there. How about you?
Yeah, well, I'm on the. They nominated me for the board, so we're approving speakers and stuff. The more when I interviewed Josie Parks, he said that he said that about Anthony Delmedic. He said the more I got to know him, the less I liked him. But for me, it's like the more I get to know Josie, the more I like him. So we becoming friends, and like we start meeting more and more, and I actually become much closer to Anthony Delmedico recently. So we text each other. But
That
Josie
interview wasn't
Parks,
bad.
yeah, but Josie Parks is turning it around. I don't know what's gonna happen, but on the board there's a lot of good people. So he built good team. My only concern is they don't have enough time. It's like 30 days left, but in a conference space, you can put a conference together from scratch in 30 days, and they do have a
Yeah.
brand. So I do have a booth. I will be there. My team will be there. I'm bringing my sauna there even. So
Oh, really?
because I don't have my event anymore, and I have my sauna here, and they're like, Ellen Mick asked me about it. It's like, would you? Ellen Mick is also on the board. He asked me, can you bring it? I'm like, yeah, I'll bring my sauna. So I'm gonna be there.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I missed out on something. I was asked to be on the board and I declined it. I didn't have time, but
Sure.
I wouldn't have minded. But I got to meet Josie Parks for the first time at IRE recently. He seemed like a decent enough guy. I didn't get a much chance to really talk to him, but I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. He's going into something that is definitely very difficult. I'm surprised that they are doing as well as they are, considering the history of Win the Storm and how it was really just about to just die. It would have died for
Oh yeah,
sure.
no, it was that. But I want you
It-
to think about this in this world, in this industry, with a turnover like 80% of contractors, like every 2 years, it's a new crowd. Like there's new people, there's new business owners, right? And Texas is huge, so it's not hard to start. Like I grew my event, like you've seen my event. It took me 5 years from scratch up. So even if you start from scratch, it's not hard. But they do
yeah,
have a core people who go there for each other, for the friendships, and so they don't start from scratch. And you have a lot of influencers, and it's Texas. So I
yeah.
think, with the very minimum, it'll be a couple thousand people in their core. But I don't know if they're gonna have people come back who got pissed off in the past.
Hey, I know we only got a little time left and stuff. I got to ask you this question. It's been brought up. Have you been paid that 60 grand? Had to ask that before we got off.
Of course not. Of course not.
Okay.
I was in Las Vegas at Brad Lee podcast, and first thing Brad Lee asked me, did he pay 60K? I'm like, no. And he's like, why not? And here's the thing about that. I'm not even mad about it. You know why I'm not mad about it? Because I was raised differently. Like Lee Haight has a podcast with his dad, Donnie Haight. And Donnie, like in that podcast, Donnie shares how they were raised with Marty High, his brother. And he shares how, they were playing games, and at the end of that, they were changing rules. So imagine if your dad teaching you that, hey, if you lose the game, just change the rule. And Lee actually in that podcast, so they're having conversation, and Lee goes like, well, we call it reneg. So that's the storm chasing mentality. It happens a lot with the commissions, and like imagine if your dad teaching you something. Like my dad would freaking kill me if I don't honor my word. If I would have a video or audio of me saying that I'm gonna pay you 60K if you do something, and then you do it and I don't do it, my dad would whoop my ass, and my mom too. But in that family, if you know like the history, if you hear that conversation and that podcast alone, because when I was doing my story in Lee, like I used it, like they laugh about it. It's not a big deal to renegotiate deal after you lose the game. And for that reason, I'm not even mad. Like when I said beef settled, but the debt is not paid. In my mind, he still owes money, but it's honor thing. It's his reputation and it's going to be on him for the rest of time. You watch Friends, right? Like the sitcom Friends. So in France, they have we were on a break moment. Like we were on a break. No, we were not on a break because like they were on the break and he cheated, whatever. But did he cheat it because they were on a break, right? And the same here. Like you owe me money, no, you don't, because we don't have a contract. And it's a debate that's polarizing debate. But for someone like Bradley said, it's if you say it, your word is your contract. But many will argue, no, if you don't have contract, you don't have a contract. So for me, my word is my contract because my parents raised me that way. For him, it's not because he was raised differently. Again, I feel bad for the guy because what he is losing, his reputation, he's going to lose way more than $60,000. I see it already. People commenting on every. Imagine if you're selling courses, 60,000, and you cannot. I mean, he's claiming that he's worth like $10 million, $100 million company. I mean, it's pennies. It's 0.5% of what you claim you're worth, and you cannot. I mean, it's not even a lot of money. Like someone brought up to me in Las Vegas 5 years ago. We have a bat. This is a funny story. So it was Rodney Webb conference in 2018. His name is Jason Kudo. And at that time, so we're drinking at Rodney Webb conference. My sales manager and Jason Kudo start having bets who's going to sell more next year. Long story short, we place a bet that who's going to break $5 million first. Well, of course, Jason did it first. I never talked to the guy. We were like friends. Like it was never reminded, but we did a video. Someone filmed the video, and I remember it. So we shake hands, and Rodney Webb actually broke it. $5,000 bet. The sales manager who was working for me, who organized the whole thing, 2 months later, he got fired. In 5 years, I never was reminded about it. I knew about it. I remember it, but I never talked to the guy. I never met him. After I started posting like $60,000 thing, the guy finds me, messages me. He's like, "What about our bet?" And I said, "Oh, I owe it to you." Like immediately. He's like, "Are you going to be at IRE?" I said, "I will be at IRE." And I asked, we couldn't even remember amount. I thought it was 7,000. He thought it was 10,000. I said, "Can you find the video?" "I'll find the video." Sends the video, is 5,000. And immediately during the IRE, I paid $5,000. All I needed is cool. Let's figure out the amount. And I sent $5,000. Do I have to? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's 5 years ago, but it's a man thing. Like, that's what you do. You run your mouth, you better pay up. So I don't think he'll ever pay, but I think he will lose way more. If I see him, I'll shake his hand. I'm not going to sue him. Bradley told me, like, sue him, go after him, take it. I'm like, I'm done. It's not worth it.
I remember the first time I met Lee, and because of this story I'm about to tell you, I was very happy that you kicked his ass. We were at RoofCon 2, and he's on stage, and he's killing it. He's really good on stage. He will get a crowd riled up. He's very good at that. And I was seeing that the audience was into it. It was pretty awesome. So he's coming off stage. There's a group of us about to congratulate him on the side of the stage for doing a great job. And he comes down all cocky. He's like, "It's how you fucking do this. You guys don't know how to run a fucking show. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you guys. You don't know what the hell you're doing. Get the heck away from me." We're about to congratulate him for doing good. That was his reaction. And I had no interest in talking to him again. He invited me on his podcast after I ended up meeting with some of his guys in the field randomly. And I said, "No, I'm good. Thanks. I appreciate the offer." But no, holy shit.
Yeah, watch out. He might call you out for the fight next or something.
Yeah, he might. He'll kick my ass, though. So
No, he's strong. He fought good. Like it was good fight. You know, he won the first round, but that's about it.
yeah.
So.
I wonder if I've heard that he is maybe a little bit different himself after this. Maybe.
I hope so. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll both learn our lessons for sure. It's impossible to have this kind of experience and not to like. I was ready to like if I would lose. I mean, it would be okay, but I won.
Did you break your nose?
No,
There's a lot of blood. What was that coming from?
it was a small cut here. It was a very tiny cut. I mean,
Yeah.
I did interview the very next morning to Tim Brown. It was just it
Yeah,
was
you had
not.
like a Band-Aid on your nose then.
Yeah. So you know what cut is like? Pretty much there's a bone and just tiny
Oh, yeah.
cut. But
Okay.
within 3 days, it was all like healed up and it was fine. Like I didn't go to doctor or anything.
Didn't even look like you had a fight within 3 days.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder how easy.
I didn't have a black eye. Can you imagine that? Like you train
That's great.
5 years and you cannot have a black eye on a person. And I mean, it's not hard to get a nose bleed, but if you play Would You Rather game, would you rather have bloody nose or black eye? Runny nose anytime, right? Like it's
Probably.
it's
Yeah.
good for
You can
pictures.
see still. Yeah.
It's a 5-minute problem compared to a black eye. You know, we're
for a
talking a
week.
month sometimes.
You have to disappear from social media for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Or learn how to wear makeup, I guess.
You're not getting any girls with a black eye, typically, right?
There's, that's a whole different discussion. Shut up.
Real smart makeup.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna shut this down. I really appreciate you being on, man. It's been a great conversation. If you're cool with it, and you said that you were okay with being on more podcasts, I want to talk to you about directory a little bit. Sure. The next time that we do this, maybe in a couple of months or so. All right?
Absolutely, would love it.
Cool. Sweet. Thanks again for being on. I'm gonna boot you off and talk about the sponsors real quick. Remington Claim Titan is a CRM for public adjusters, and it's awesome. Building Experts Institute has online go at your own pace training that is super in depth, and it can teach you so many things. Mostly it's my face that's on there, but that's changing very rapidly. Thank God. And then there is the Hook Agency. If you are a roofing company and you are looking to get marketing for your roofing company, they are so damn good that they convinced me, a guy who is freaking terrified of needles, to get a tattoo at a conference. And it's terrible, and I'll never fix it. But they could probably convince me to do it again.
That fight as well.
Did they sponsor the fight? Yeah. They probably egged it on in the behind the scenes, and nobody knew about it. That's how good they are. American Policyholder Association, if you aren't a member of that, you should be, because it is unveiling the amount of insurance fraud committed by insurance carriers and attempting to prosecute against that. And then there's the Huggins Law Firm, probably the coolest and the best law firm in the entire Southeast.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Remington over here, it's not just him. He's got one hell of a team, but this dude's a stud. You should be using this firm if you have a problem with an insurance claim. Hopefully in every state at some point in your life. Hopefully. I hope so.
We shall see.
At least
hey, that was a good interview. Not an interview. That was a good podcast. But
dude,
got some insight. Good stuff. Enjoyed it.
I can't help it. I like the guy. He had a fight.
I don't know the other fighter. I've never met him before, so I have nothing to say about that. But just hearing Dmitry's like intent behind the fight and what he learned and his going forward in life, like I thought it was pretty good stuff.
I think that he learned some life lessons, and he got a little bit of pain, but overall, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go get myself into a fight, but it kind of makes me want to think about it for some reason. So I'll probably daydream about it at least a few times, and maybe that'll be good enough for me, but I'm weak. So maybe I have a battle of wits. If anybody's up for that, I'm in.
There you go.
Cool. All right, man. I'll see you next week. Next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm all
We'll
over the
see.
place, man. I'm
We'll be
everywhere.
back.
Next
We'll figure
Tuesday,
this out.
4 p.m. I'll see you guys then.